excuse him. Maybe that was it. I was thinking of recording my first nut of December for Jen, but you know what? She doesn't deserve it. So moving on. You've made your own toenails to Palm Swipes After, a cat vagina of the latest episode of Mom Swipes Left, a podcast with two middle-aged women who don't want people playing in their butter. This is episode 68, about MSL episode 207. I'm your host, Pomme de Terre. Enjoy. Good episode, as usual. A little too much fat shaming for my taste. Between Watermelon Dog, which I'll get to, that extended to Rue, and Jenny twice fat shamed herself, which I just don't buy. I'm sorry. I know I'm biased. I think she's incredibly beautiful inside and out. She's just a fuckwad and can't see it. I think it's also just a subject I'm a little personally sensitive about, being as rotund as I am. I know that when I go to the great fry later in the sky and get sliced up, I'm most likely to be wedges or even worse, planks. Carol had a shit list about Mpox, which I agree with. I don't think it's going to do much to combat, excuse me, racism. I don't know why she couldn't say Laos. It's a country. I don't know why others are not taking umbrage with chickenpox. Swine flu, is that offensive to police? The Spanish flu was unfortunately named because, as Jen pointed out, it really started most likely in the United States. Spain was just the first country to acknowledge that they had cases. They were the ones with the, one might say, cojones to identify the flu, and thus they were labeled. Jen had a hair across her ass, and that was long in coming, apparently, about butterboards, which I was not aware of until this handy conversation, which was unnecessary. But speaking of unnecessary, I think I do need to clarify that yes, there is a difference between using different kinds of cutting surfaces for your vegetables and your meats. You're supposed to cut vegetables on plastic cutting boards because they can be cleaned easily. No, I said the wrong thing. Wooden cutting boards for vegetables. Plastic, non-permeable surface for raw meat, because if you cut meat on the same wooden board as your vegetables, you're soaking your vegetables in the same bacteria that's been growing in that wood and all of its partners ad infinitum. Nobody wants that. The cranberry report for No Nut November, the last of the bunch. Cranberries still in. Was very inspirational. Carol unfortunately caved and had sex with her husband, which she rubbed in everybody's face. I agree with Cranberry that just don't do it. Fuck No Nut. There's really just no point to it, is what I ultimately determined. Though I lasted, not that anybody even noticed, but I lasted until December 3rd for no particular reason, just because I felt like holding out a little bit longer. And I'll say this much about No Nut November: it did save me on condoms. Yes, I use masturbation condoms like an adult jizzing in a tube sock, not a child. The conversation with Cranberry also deviated into an art project for Jen, where she'll take pictures of things she'd fuck if she had a dick. No cat butts allowed. Did make me wonder about things you'd insert, or I'd insert, or a man would insert if he had a vagina. I have a request for my t-shirt, which I do think I've earned quite handily, so to speak, or not so handily. I would like the same shirt as Cranberry requested, a vagina self-portrait, though my request is both easier and I think more accurate in that I don't need sleeves, so it could just be a pillowcase, really, for me. And I want a true vagina self-portrait with from a Sharpie. So Sharpie goes in vagina. Vagina is the artist drawing said self-portrait. Because who better to represent themselves than the actual vagina? Or I'll let you determine whose vagina it is. Although just by saying vagina, I think only one of you has a vagina. The other has a very classy Connecticut vagina. Notable news I thought was interesting because all of the stories sounded like joke setups. I did my best to come up with the punchlines. They're pretty terrible, but I'm just putting that out there. So, first, there was, have you heard about this Chinese marathon runner who ran while smoking cigarettes? No, tell me about the Chinese marathon runner who ran while smoking cigarettes. Well, people call him Uncle Chen, but his real name is Chimney. We learned that a 42 kilometer race is indeed about 26.1 miles, though a marathon technically is 26.2 miles, and not the 22 and a half miles that Jen estimated. Have you heard about the nursing home amputee? He cut his rehab time in half because he died. Did you hear about the wife who killed her husband after a fight over ants in the rice? He really must have bugged her. Have you heard about Watermelon Dog? She's really fat because people overfed her. I told you they weren't very good. That led to conversations about whether Jenny could. There, we get into. I don't know if this was the first or second fat shaming. I think the first to for Jen to tour as Big Fat Jenny, get tagged, and people can follow her on Google Maps. But would she be tagged blue like Watermelon Dog as homeless but harmless? She is hardly harmless. And the next installment of the MSL gift guide. I don't understand the name of the insensitive buttsicle in a tin, though it's exactly what it sounds like. And I like the suggestion that Carol would just stick her keys in the butt, which now I've had Eddie Murphy's Boogie in Your Butt stuck in my head ever since hearing that. Finally, and I want to give a shout out to the AI show notes again because I thought this was the best of the bunch when covering the Nicolas Cage hydro flask sticker. Um, the AI described the conversation about this sticker of Nicolas Cage. Well, here the description is: Fat girl finds confidence after seeing picture of Nicolas Cage in a bikini. Though I don't. Well, apparently Jen's fat don't roll like that, so she's probably not gonna try out that pose. And finally, I have a grievance with not with Carol, but whoever shamed Carol into reading the MSL phone number L201 as LEL, which is accurate, but I feel like somebody must have shamed her into no longer saying it's L as in the Spanish. That is all. Bye bye. Love you so hard.